What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, November 10th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:09 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from here in the US and from overseas. So in case you missed what Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary of War, said over the weekend at the National War College, I want to share with you what he said. He said that the U.S. is now on a wartime footing, that the U.S. military-industrial complex is switching over from peacetime to wartime. And then he also said that right now is a 1939 moment. He's saying basically that we are on the verge of another world war. So I want to play these clips for you. This is absolutely huge, okay? Take a listen.
We're not building for peacetime. We are pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing.
Okay, we are pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. Listen again.
We're not building for peacetime. We are pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. Pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. We're pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. Building for victory should our adversaries FAFO.
Okay, so, I mean, he clearly stated it there. And then here he talks about how we're at a 1939 moment, basically that we are on the verge of another world war. That's what it sounds like to me.
This is a 1939 moment, or hopefully a 1981 moment, a moment of mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow, you feel it, I feel it. If we are going to prevent and avoid war, which is what we all want, we must prepare now. This is a 1939 moment.
Okay, a 1939 moment, guys. This is just really, really serious. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to wish the Rossinator a very happy birthday. Today is the Rossinator's birthday, so please join me in wishing Ross happy birthday. A lot of you guys know who he is. He's a really good guy. He always helps us out with breaking news here on the channel. Also, yesterday was Mama Eagle's birthday. Both of them are moderators here on the NYPrepper channel, and they both contribute significantly to this channel. I'm very thankful to have them here and for everything they've done to keep all of us informed. Thank you very much, Ross and Mama Eagle, and wishing you guys a very happy birthday. And the U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said that the government shutdown will slow U.S. travel to a trickle ahead of Thanksgiving. That means air traffic controllers weren't coming to work. It's only going to get worse. Wow, slow to a trickle. And the FAA issued a ground stop at Chicago's O'Hare Airport and New York's JFK Airport over the weekend due to staffing shortages caused by the ongoing government shutdown, which led to nearly 1,000 flight cancellations so far. And we're actually hearing updated numbers that 10,000 flights have been canceled since the government shutdown started. Now, last night, the U.S. Senate passed a continuing resolution to reopen the government until January, and then in January, they would reconvene and pass a permanent bill to keep the government open. And now it's going to go to the House. The House is going to vote on this on Wednesday. So Wednesday, we're going to find out if the government is going to stay closed or reopen. And drones were spotted again over Belgium yesterday. They were spotted over Liège Airport and the Dole nuclear power plant. The airport had to be shut down temporarily. And if you remember last week, Russia sent drones, recon drones, over the Klein Brogel Air Base, which is where the U.S. houses B-61 nuclear gravity bombs for NATO, part of NATO's nuclear sharing mission. Okay, so that is very concerning. And the UK will send troops to Belgium due to the drone incursions there. Britain will send Royal Air Force personnel from the 2nd Force Protection Wing to assist NATO allies following a series of drone incidents in Belgium. And the New York Times is reporting that Iran is preparing for a far more aggressive response to any future Israeli strike, aiming to launch 2,000 missiles in a single wave at Israel instead of the 500 launched over 12 days in June. And the New York Times also reported that regional officials in the Middle East warned that another Israel-Iran war is only a matter of time, as Iran has built a new underground uranium enrichment site known as Pickaxe Mountain. And the New York Times is also reporting that Israeli intelligence now believes Iran has secretly moved its stockpile of highly enriched uranium to a secure location, contradicting official claims that it remains buried under rubble. Okay, so Iran still has nuclear material. Trump's bomber strikes on the Fordow facility and the other nuclear facilities did not completely destroy Iran's nuclear program, okay? And the first of its kind joint military drills are underway in California between the U.S. Army and the Saudi land forces, a U.S. defense official told Al Arabiya. It signals continuing U.S. security commitment to the region, the official added. So Saudi Arabian Army, U.S. Army doing joint exercises, drills in California. That's pretty unusual. And I wanted to update you guys on the interstellar object 3I Atlas. So what you're looking at here is the latest picture of 3I Atlas. Now, some interesting things have happened to this so-called comet in the last couple of days and weeks. First of all, when it was passing by Mars, NASA had a clear shot of it, and they took a lot of different pictures and gathered data, and they are refusing to release any information about it. Also, it made a complete U-turn after passing near the sun, which comets don't make U-turns, guys. Okay, it made a complete U-turn, and it's now going to be coming towards us on December 19th. It's going to be approaching Earth, and it'll be the closest to Earth so far on December 19th. Another interesting thing is that it has now shrunk by 13%. It lost 13% of its mass after passing close to the sun last month and making this U-turn. Okay, so this is very, very concerning. It also lost its tail. So you can see here that it doesn't have a tail anymore. That doesn't make any sense, guys. Okay, comets usually have a tail because they're streaking through space and they have, like, debris behind them that they're ejecting as they're streaming through space. Okay, think of like a missile or a meteorite coming down through the atmosphere. It has that tail behind it. It's the same thing with comets. This thing has no tail, and also the tail is facing the opposite direction of where it's going. Okay, that makes absolutely no sense. It's like seeing a plane in the sky with its contrail in front of the plane instead of behind the plane. Could you imagine that? Well, that's what's happening with this thing, this so-called comet. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. So wanted to just update you guys on that. And the Venezuelan president Maduro says that Venezuela is studying Vietnam's war tactics to prepare for a possible U.S. attack. Some reports claim that Venezuela has already constructed Vietnam-style tunnel networks in the jungles of Venezuela. Wow, so they're going to study what the Viet Cong did in the Vietnam War to fight against U.S. ground forces. Very concerning. And we're hearing that the U.S. is surveying new sites to send additional military forces to the Caribbean with a growing focus on Venezuela. So they're looking for more places to send fighter jets and various types of military equipment. I don't have an update yet on the USS Gerald Ford, the big aircraft carrier, the largest aircraft carrier in the U.S. that was supposed to go down to the Caribbean. The last we heard a couple of days ago, last Friday, it was stalled off the coast of Morocco for some reason. I don't know if it's making its way across the Atlantic now, all right? But nothing's going to happen in Venezuela until the Gerald Ford gets close to the Caribbean, and we may not even know when it gets close. They may try to keep it secret, okay? So we don't know, so OSINT people can't figure it out, because if people like me can figure out where it is, then obviously Venezuela and Russia can figure out where it is, and they don't want the enemy to know where it is, okay? And the Venezuelan army just conducted exercises with anti-tank weapons. And Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said Ukraine is looking to buy 27 Patriot missiles from the U.S. And the armed forces of Brazil, in a final phase of Operation Atlas, mobilized more than 10,000 personnel from the Brazilian Navy, Army, and Air Force. And this is right near the border of Venezuela. So Brazil mobilized 10,000 troops, and they did this big exercise near the Venezuelan border. They flew some Gripen fighter jets, Swedish fighter jets, along the border of Venezuela because they're trying to block Venezuela from going into those parts of Brazil and using that as a way to attack Guyana or some other countries. So this is very concerning. And India issued a notification for an Air Force exercise in its northern sector near the disputed Kashmir region from November 12th through November 14th. And Putin said yesterday that the U.S. is the only country to use nuclear weapons against a non-nuclear state, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, despite no military need. He said that Japan's resistance was already broken and the nuclear bombs did not have to be used. And the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia is drafting proposals for a potential nuclear test following President Putin's directive, citing the need for strategic parity with Washington. Wow. Okay, so they want to test a nuke because of what Trump said, that the U.S. is going to resume testing nukes. And Russia passed a law allowing total internet blackout in the country. Russia adopted a new decree granting Roskomnadzor, the state agency overseeing information, total control over the Russian internet. The regulator is now authorized to issue binding orders to telecom operators and internet service providers, redirect internet traffic through state-controlled technical systems, alter data routing paths, activate filtering, blocking, or protection tools at its discretion, take direct manual control over the entire Russian internet in case of a threat, and they could also disconnect the entire Russian internet if necessary. Okay, so this is absolutely insane. Russia is going into a full wartime mode and full communism type mode, going back to the Soviet Union days, okay? And Israel warned the Lebanese army that if it does not act against Hezbollah, Israeli attacks will intensify. And shots were fired at Border Patrol agents in Chicago over the weekend. The shooter is at large, and the Lithuanian government is considering a full stop to rail freight from Belarus, including the transit of fertilizers, petroleum products, and other exports that still pass through Lithuanian territory. So that's going to really piss Putin off, because a lot of that freight goes to Kaliningrad, which is geographically isolated by the Baltics and Poland. And so Russia is reliant on Lithuania's goodwill to allow all their trucks and trains to get into Kaliningrad. Otherwise, Russia has to ship everything into Kaliningrad by boat through the Baltic Sea, basically turning Kaliningrad into an island, which could cripple the Kaliningrad economy. So Putin could try to make a land bridge through Lithuania to Kaliningrad. And more than 20,000 people were left without power in Russia's Belgorod region and the surrounding area after an attack on a thermal power plant by Ukraine. That was over the weekend. And the EU is preparing its 20th sanctions package against Russia and Belarus. And China launched the world's largest solid fuel rocket, Gravity 1, again, this time from a ship in the Yellow Sea. So that's very concerning that China is launching the world's largest solid fuel rocket. It's a space rocket. Okay. Also, China said that they will not be entering into any nuclear arms treaties with the U.S. because they say that the U.S. has so many more nukes. It doesn't make sense for China to engage in arms control with the U.S. Okay, and that was over the weekend. We also have some very concerning economic news. So Trump announced 50-year mortgages over the weekend, which is very concerning. That means people cannot afford mortgages anymore because the rates are ridiculous and home prices are so high. That's a bad sign for our economy. But also, U.S. consumer sentiment declined to near an all-time low as concerns about the economic impact of the government shutdown mounted, according to new data. The University of Michigan's Index of Consumer Sentiment preliminary reading for November was 50.3, well below the 53.2 expected by economists. That's the lowest level for consumer sentiment reported by the index since a reading of 50 in June of 2022, when the U.S. economy was beset by the highest level of inflation in 40 years. Consumer sentiment fell back about 6% this November, led by a 17% drop in current personal finances and an 11% decline in year-ahead expected business conditions, said University of Michigan Surveys of Consumers Director Joanne Hsu. Okay, so 17% drop in current personal finances. Okay, you know what that means? People don't have money to buy things other than necessities, all right? And this government shutdown is really hurting our economy because you have to think of the U.S. government as a massive employer. Tens of thousands of people work for the U.S. government. The U.S. government shutting down would be like the equivalent of every single bank in the U.S. shutting down and laying off their employees for an entire month. All those people that would be collecting paychecks, spending money, are not doing that, okay? They're going into savings mode because they're not getting paid, so that's hurting our economy, all those people not spending money, okay? And American companies slashed more than 150,000 jobs last month, the biggest October total in more than 2 decades. The bombshell figure comes as firms turn to artificial intelligence and aggressive cost cutting to weather a cooling economy. A report from layoff tracking firm Challenger Gray and Christmas shows employers announced 153,000 job cuts in October, up 175% from a year earlier and 183% from September. It marks the sharpest rise for the month since 2003, when the economy was still reeling from the dot-com bust and widespread layoffs swept through Silicon Valley. Wow, very, very concerning. Massive layoffs being reported, and then also consumer finances, consumer sentiment dropping. And American anti-drone systems have been deployed to Poland. The news was reported on Thursday of last week by the Associated Press and confirmed on Friday by the Polish defense minister. The American MAROPS anti-drone systems are already in Poland, he wrote. And The Atlantic claims that Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro signaled that he's willing to step down if Trump promises that he can have a safe and comfortable life in exile. Very interesting. And North Korea's defense minister warned that North Korea will take a more aggressive military approach amid U.S.-South Korea security talks, condemning Washington's hostile presence in the region. And South Korea's Defense Intelligence Agency provided a briefing on North Korea's current posture to South Korea's parliament, saying that if Kim Jong-un orders a seventh nuclear test, it could be carried out immediately. North Korea is intensifying efforts to secure nuclear materials and has begun establishing multiple production facilities dedicated to manufacturing nuclear warheads. Okay, so they're expanding their production of nuclear warheads. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with some live coverage and live updates and live breaking news. So follow me on X, follow me on Telegram, check me out on Patreon, download my free app from the Google Play Store. The link is in the description down below. So this way you can be notified when I go live. I always send out notifications through my app, through Telegram, and through Twitter anytime I'm going live. Okay, so everybody knows I'm live. But until later on, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is MyPatriot Supply. Guys, MyPatriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from MyPatriot Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.